Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well today. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show where we look back at last night's slate. Then we look at today's slate. We go game by game, talk about guys we like, guys we might not like as much, and then we go from there, On the pre-lock show, though, that's really when we talk through leverage plays, core plays, guys we're going under the field on, things of that sort. Nothing too crazy. But we know what we have to do. We have to talk about it. Last night, was not my night by any means. Did not perform very well. Was a losing night for me. It happens to all of us. You all know I try to be transparent with y'all when that happens with me. But just because I had a bad night does not mean that everyone at DFS Army had a bad night. My guy E Money, who is here sometimes, he's usually on the pre-lock show. He's also always in the Discord, talking and giving advice and things of that sort. He's someone who won $2,500 last night. He won quite a few winner-take-all tournaments. He's a single entry guy. I do not know how he does it, to be honest. But again, recommend everyone join DFS Army. Link is in the description. There's guys like this in the Discord who are always giving advice, so highly recommend joining. E-Money's one of those guys who's been a part of DFS Army for a while, and I like his approach. He has listened to what the coaches have been saying at DFS Army for a while, and he takes his own risk and shots. He still looks at leverage plays, and if he agrees with them, he uses them. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And I always appreciate that style when it comes to members. I always say, I can't always predict the future. I've won a lot of money playing DFS, but I like to do this show and the pre-lock show especially, so you guys can just see what I do, and you can follow it if you want to, but if not, pick what you like and then pivot other places. I love that play style. That's what I used to do. JJ agreed. Let's go. My guy, Vic. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. All right, guys. This was last night's 100 winning dollar lineup. Again, I wasn't on Trae Young. But he played fantastic last night. It made sense. He was in the highest total game. And so, I understand the play. So that panned out for you all who played him. Tim Hardaway Jr., we talked about. He's been hot, man. He's been hot, but he is a streaky shooter, so he was chalky. I didn't feel like playing that. Obviously, not the best choice. Kyle Kuzma was a B-Dubs leverage play, one of DFS Army's coaches, and we had natural leverage to him, so that went pretty well. John Collins, I talked about yesterday on the show, and I was like, John Collins is in a fantastic spot. But Sadiq Bey has been cutting into his minutes. I should have just played John Collins. But, it happens. Christian Wood was a core play, but he really wasn't that fantastic. Again, we were desperate for value yesterday, and so we talked about it at the start of the pre-lock show. You could build a more balanced line like this lineup is, and you could have a solid performance, and that's what happened. Playing studs and dud was not, or playing cheap and studs was not the way to go last night. It was this balanced build approach, not eating a lot of the chalky value on the Hawks, but playing some of this solid value price-wise when it came to Collins, Christian Wood, and DeAndre Hunter. You didn't need the super cheap guys last night. It happens sometimes. And then so Christian Wood just kind of made it in the lineup. CJ McCollum was he? I think he might not have been a leverage play actually. But he was someone that the sim model liked a lot. And so there's definitely ways of getting to him. DeAndre Hunter fits the same situation as some of these mid, solid value plays that just kind of fit. He didn't really exceed value or anything like that, but he just did just enough to help you get far in your lines. Bradley Beal was a leverage play. Again, he didn't really exceed value, so he didn't really help a ton, but again, he did just enough to win the 100K lineup, which is honestly all that matters. So yeah, interesting night for sure. Definitely wish it was better, but they happen sometimes. Michael Ortiz said, yeah, didn't win yesterday. Ate the chalk on Oklahoma. Today's a new day. Yeah, same. It's funny. I was talking to B-Dubs about it, one of DFS Army's coaches, and he was like, yeah, last night, and he agreed, just didn't go the way it went. And honestly, these kind of nights happen. I honestly wouldn't have done anything different. So I just know yesterday is not the kind of day I would win. There's definitely ways you can look back at it and try to reevaluate how you would play, but my play style is typically playing the low-owned guys, and if they're chalky, my play style is taking shot on low-owned studs and trying to hit on the value. And if the value doesn't hit and the low-owned studs don't break the slate, I have nights like yesterday. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. Good to see you. All right, like you said, or Michael, it's a new day. I hope your daughter's eye's okay. Sorry, I totally missed that. But yeah, it's a new day. Let's look at today's slate. Is a bit more interesting. We have some moving pieces, so definitely a lot more exciting than yesterday, to be honest. All right, so starting off, let's look at the Hornets. We have Cody Martin listed as out. LaMelo Ball is out. None of that's really breaking news. I will say that Dennis Smith Jr. has been solid coming off the bench. That doesn't mean that he's someone that I feel like I have to play tonight, but it does make him more viable than he has been previously. I don't think that's surprising that he's been doing well with LaMelo Ball out. It's just something to keep note of. If it was a night like yesterday where we were desperate for value, I would say he would be another viable value play. Terry Rozier, solid ownership at 13%. The sim model likes him a good bit. He's on my radar as someone that I would consider utilizing as a leverage play, but I'm not locked in on him quite yet. Kelly Oubre has solid ownership. I'm fine with him. I'm not really jumping up and down to play him, though, so probably going to be more so around field weight. Similar story with Gordon Hayward. These guys have upside. They've been in the $100,000 winning lineup over the last few weeks, so we've seen that they have that upside. But again, like when people are relatively popular, I just don't get excited about that. The domination station should give me some exposure, and I'll be okay with however much I get. Nick Richards is oddly enough a sim model play, someone that the sim model likes a decent bit. I think he's just another option of value, but I think we should have better value on this slate, to be honest. And then, yeah, Mark Williams, I don't really feel especially passionate about, to be honest. Finally, we do not have to play the Pistons tonight, which is nice. Jalen Duren is listed as probable, so that should impact Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman. Would it surprise me if now Bagley has a solid performance because he'll be lower owned and he shouldn't perform well? No. Weird stuff happens in NBA DFS. Weird stuff that doesn't make sense happens all the time. But I'm not planning on forcing exposure to Bagley because Duren returning should impact Bagley and Wiseman and limit their minutes, which limits their upside to an extent. We can play bigs against the Hornets, though, and so that's why I feel like I wouldn't be shocked if Bagley and Wiseman or Duren have a bit of a ceiling performance here. But I don't love attacking or trying to take a leverage play on these guys unless someone really stands out for me. And as of right now, I feel pretty meh on all of them given their price tag. If Bagley was $1,000 cheaper, then I would consider it. But given their price range, I feel pretty much the same on all of them. So if I get some exposure through the domination station with it, I would be happy with that, but not guys I'm really trying to force exposure to. Jaden Ivey is also not the smash play that he's been in previous slates. Killian Hayes is expected to play today. He's listed as probable, and so that will impact Ivey's usage and how involved he has been in the offense. And so I'm definitely again okay with Ivey tonight because the Hornets suck as a defense, but it's not a spot where we have to utilize these guys as core plays tonight. All solid plays, but they don't have to be core plays. So interesting game. There's some pieces I like, but not my favorite game on the slate, to be honest. All of these games are solid on this slate. So I think it's going to be like that. There's a few ceiling spots that I'll target, and we'll talk about when we get there. But for the most part, it's not like yesterday where there were a lot of meh games. Next up, we have the Pacers. Aaron Nesmith is listed as questionable. Kind of matters. Honestly, not the biggest deal in the world for me. But what I do like is that the Pacers are facing this god-awful Rockets team. I hate that I missed out on Tyrese Halliburton's ceiling performance last slate. I'm trying to make sure I'm not just feeling FOMO, or I'm not just feeling like I missed out last time. But he's in another great spot. A lot of guys have ceiling performances against this Rockets team, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he does. And him being at relatively low ownership because everyone's afraid of the spread, it definitely puts him on my radar as another potential leverage play. I do like him more than Terry Rozier, so he's more realistic for me than that. Miles Turner, I'm always a big fan of in relatively soft matchups. And this is another spot where I like him once again. So another guy I plan on having at least exposure to, but not over the field exposure on. My thing with the Pacers is that I like Turner. I feel pretty good about Turner and Halliburton. The other pieces, I kind of want the domination station to just control a little bit. The blowout risk is there, so I'm a little bit more okay getting some weird exposure to some of these value plays down here, but I just don't think we'll need it because of the Nets value on this slate. So just going back to it, Halliburton, Turner, I like a good bit tonight. The other guys, we'll just kind of see how much exposure the domination station gives us. The Rockets, Kevin Porter Jr. is out. And when Kevin Porter Jr. is out, there are more viable options from this team. So what that means is that the guys who see a nice increase in usage are your guys like Daishan Nix, Green, and Eason. I think we've all seen that throughout this season, that Eason usually has his solid performances when Porter is out. He usually has even better performances when Green and Porter are out, but he's still more interesting here in this spot against a not so great Pacers team. Honestly, there's just a lot of solid value in this entire game. Like, I like Green, I like Eason. I don't feel like I need to take a lot of shots on Shungen, but if I get a little bit, I'm okay being around field weight, but not really trying to force. We've been playing bigs against the Pacers, so I can make a case for it. I think I just like some of the other plays and value plays on this slate more than Shingen, to be honest. But fine being around field weight. Tate is interesting, but I'm going to try to force a lot of exposure. I'll hopefully just get some exposure naturally because he projects well. Christopher's fine. And then I'm okay being around 5% exposure on Knicks, but it's probably about, I don't know. I want to look a little bit closer at Knicks. I think there's some better value on this slate, but he's on my radar. I don't want to forget about him. It's probably the most important thing for me. Vic said he took down a single entry 5 days ago and got 1,500. Nice, man. Sorry I missed the screenshot. You probably posted it. Sometimes I miss stuff. But that's freaking awesome. Congrats, man. I hate when I miss things to celebrate. I try to keep a good eye out, but, life gets busy sometimes. Next up, we have the Utah Jazz against the Magic. I like this game too. So we have Jordan Clarkson listed as questionable and Walker Kessler listed as questionable. Thank God this game is one of the earlier games. And so with it being early, we should get this news before lock. And I think we could have some very interesting plays here. When Clarkson's out, that's the guy who sees the biggest increase in usage is Agbaji. Other guys who see a solid increase are Olynyk and THT. But even outside of that, like if Kessler and Clarkson end up being out, I'm interested in Lauri Markkanen a lot more against an okay Magic team. Kelly Olynyk would increase a lot for me. Those are like the two guys I want the most exposure to. And then, of course, like I would need to have exposure to like THT and Agbaji as well. But again, like I hate like kind of going back on what I'm saying a little bit, but there's some solid value in the Nets game too. So I'll have to kind of weigh that out to figure out which way I want to, like, am I going to be able to eat the Nets chalk and still be over the field on maybe some of these sneaky Jazz plays? I don't know. We'll have to just kind of see on the pre-lock show. We'll have that planned out by. Next up for the Magic. Oh, it's on Twitter? All right, I'll have to check it out. Nice, man. For the Magic, we have Wendell Carter Jr. listed as out. Gary Harris is not on the injury report. Schofield looks like he's playing. He's probable. And then Isaac's been out for a while. The Mo Wags core play worked out pretty well last time around. It did get very scary when he didn't see a lot of run in the fourth quarter. There's a chance here that they could decide to play small, especially if Kessler ends up being ruled out. So I don't know if Mo Wags will be like the lock and load core play like he was on the last slate, but he's definitely still someone who's on my radar. Uh, I think Fultz is someone who has interesting upside, but I prefer to play him more so when Cole Anthony's out. But he's always someone that I don't want to forget about. I feel like I'll probably have just some exposure like around field weight to both Fultz and Cole Anthony. But Paolo is really the guy that I want to look a little bit closer at. So let's see what the sim model thinks about Paolo tonight. Not a fan. Okay, well, that made it pretty easy. At 15% ownership, I'm okay with being around field weight, but I feel like I want to take a shot on one of these guys, but I honestly think I'll probably be slightly over the field on Paolo. I'm just going to kind of put this min here to kind of remind myself about that. I do want to be like slightly over the field, so I think I'll be okay with being around like 20 or maybe even 25. I don't know if I can fully commit to making him a leverage play and putting him at 30, but I do like being slightly over the field on Paolo just in case the Magic want to play small and they end up utilizing Manchero a little bit more at the 5. Interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I need to make sure I feel really good about that, but as of right now, I feel solid with it. Next up for the Warriors, a lot of like Looney's probable, Kuminga's probable, Iguodala's probable, Anthony Lamb's out, Andrew Wiggins is still out. I wonder what's going on there. He's been out for a while. Gary Payton's still out. Ryan Rollins is still out. My guy Curry, that leverage play worked out pretty well last time around. And I think he's in a solid spot again. Not that Jaw's a great defender, but no Jaw. He's going up against. What's the spread look like? Spread's only 2.5. Not bad. Relatively low ownership. Sim model likes him a little bit. Curry's another one of those low-owned studs that's on my radar as a potential leverage play. I think I'm probably going to do it more likely than not. Klay Thompson, never really a guy that I'm too excited about, but you can make an argument for it. Poole, not really excited about him. DiVincenzo is probably the only other Warrior that I have some interest in. I would like to have some exposure. I'll let the domination station really decide what I do here, but he's another guy that's definitely on my radar as a potential play on this slate too. Also, yeah, Curry, DiVincenzo, I'm totally cool with moving on from there. Now, the Grizzlies, I am a bit more excited about. Some of these plays panned out for us last time around. We took shots on them when they were pretty low owned and no one else was playing them. I don't really remember which ones. No, we had men's on all of them, I think. And so once again, we can play bigs against the Golden State Warriors. If Jaren Jackson Jr. stays low owned, I don't think the sim model loves him anymore like it did for a little while. Oh no, it's okay with him. He's just more expensive than he used to be, so it's a little bit harder for him to have like the high percentages like some of these guys down here. But I still like him a lot. And I'm contemplating making him a leverage play for me on this slate at low ownership. I think he'll more than likely be a leverage play for me on this slate, to be honest, at 20%. But he's too expensive now for me to just say that and be okay with it. Desmond Bane is now super chalk. We were early on it, and now we have to just kind of eat it, at least in my opinion. With John Morant out, Desmond Bane's just been in solid form, and so I'm just going to keep playing him here. I think Dillon Brooks disappointed us last time around. He's going to be that guy who's just going to disappoint us more often than not, but eventually he's going to have a solid game. I don't know if it'll be a full leverage play, but I'll have exposure to him. I can guarantee that. And then Tyus Jones, super chalk, 6,700 is a solid price tag. Probably still a little bit too cheap for the run he's seeing. I feel good enough being around field weight with him. I'm totally fine going over to. He's probably someone I'm just going to let the domination station control my fate with as well. But someone that if I'm not getting enough of him, I'll force exposure to. So I like a lot of the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. I like the chalky guys, and I like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dillon Brooks as like the lower owned guys as well. Just not sure how much over the field I'll be. Like if there'll be like a leverage play for me, if it'll just be like a 5 or 10% increase on those guys. All right, next up we have the Nets against the Bucks. For the Nets, they have a lot of injuries, or a lot of guys out at least. Spencer Dinwiddie is out. Nick Claxton is out. Cam Johnson is out. Royce O'Neal is out. This feels like a COVID roster all over again. This is where everyone's getting their value from tonight. The thing that worries me about the Nets is that they still have some decent guys out there. Mikal Bridges, I feel like I don't think this worked out as a leverage play last time around. I think he wasn't that great. But I'm totally fine going back to Bridges here as long as he stays close to being 10% owned. I'm comfortable having like a 20% min on him. Cam Thomas is the super chalk on this slate. I don't think we're expecting him to start, but we're expecting him to still see solid minutes. If he starts, I feel really, really good about him. Dorian Finney-Smith, we are expecting to start. I feel, whoa, he's not that owned. I like DFS a lot here too. I mean, as you guys have seen as we go through this slate, we have some injury news, but this is definitely a team where we have the most injury news from. So I like the vast majority of these guys. I plan on having a lot of exposure to Edmund Sumner. It looks like he's not very chalky, but he's who most of us have expected to start tonight for the Nets. And so if he's really, I think we'll probably need to update ownership on him. I doubt he'll be that low owned, but if he is, I'll be at least like around the 20 to 30% range. Seth Curry, if he comes off the bench tonight, I still don't care. He's a streaky shooter, so I'll probably just be more so around field weight. I doubt I'll go over the field on him, but I like him a lot tonight as well. Joe Harris, a little bit harder to make a case for him these days, but if I had a little bit of him, I wouldn't be upset. Dayron Sharp is the super chalk on this slate for centers. It's going to be hard to not make him a core play at 3K. Him playing 20 minutes, he's typically a pretty solid points per minute guy. It's just hard to not make a case for him. He's probably not going to start. That's probably going to be Nerlens Noel, but we will see. Oh, you guys are right. I totally avoided that. Might be a fight tonight between Draymond and Brooks. And then JJ said, hopefully they both get ejected. You know, guys, that's very likely and very possible. But that's also probably why Brooks is a little bit lower owned. And so I'm going to be over the field on him. How much? we'll see. You guys know I hate Dillon Brooks, right? Like, I'm not a Dillon Brooks fan, but I am just almost always willing to play guys who are in, if I can find enough reasons for why he's in a plus spot, which I will need to look a little bit closer at, to be honest. But they are in the second highest total game in the slate, and so I just want, or third highest game total on the slate. Really, like second, since it's the only one that's not a blowout. But I want exposure to this game, and so I'm just gonna have exposure to a lot of the Grizzlies. So it's gonna be one of those days for me. Gotta take risk. Next up, like I said, I like the Nets. Everyone likes the Nets. I'm going to take my shots on the lower owned ones like Bridges and DFS, and I don't think Edmund Sumner will be, but he is a pretty low usage guy, so I understand why people don't really love him, but I'll have, if he stays this low owned, I'll be around 5, 10%, 15% owned, and possibly higher, honestly, just depending on how my lines look tonight and how many studs I want to force in there. If I don't need him to be that high owned, he won't be. But if I do need him, we'll see. And then, yeah, I like Dayron Sharp. I can't really make a case against him, to be honest. Big said he took 17 shots and has 17 points. Yeah, DFS points. I knew what you meant. Yeah, Brooks will burn me more often than he helps me. But when he helps me, no one else will be playing him. You guys are right. I'm not disagreeing with you all. I hate Brooks. I hate playing him. But I play him because I hate him, if that makes sense. Maybe one day I won't hate him anymore. Giannis and the Bucks. Giannis is listed as probable. Drew Holiday is listed as probable. Jay Crowder's listed as probable. The only guy out is Dragic and Wesley Matthews. Chris Middleton, that core play and leverage play really worked out last time around at relatively low ownership. But now everyone's back. And so I don't really have a ton of interest. Giannis is getting decent ownership, really because we don't have a ton of super expensive studs on this slate. I think Giannis is fine. I don't really know how the Nets are going to stop him, to be honest. But we've been in these spots. Most teams, there's not really a guy who can stop Giannis, but more often than not, he just doesn't have to be super efficient or do everything for his team. So he doesn't have to be a Superman that night. The spread's pretty wide. If he was lower owned, I would be more inclined to make him a leverage play. But because he has some solid ownership, I'm really just okay being around field weight exposure. I'll let the domination station really decide what I do with this team. Hey, E-Money! I had a feeling you're gonna show up. I gave you a shout out. Congrats on your wins last night, man. Love to see it. Love to see it. I think that's it. I don't really love the Bucks tonight, but I'm okay with one-off shots here. Like, I'm okay with Giannis. I'm okay with Giroux. I don't really like Chris Middleton. Brooke Lopez could be interesting. I'll need to look a little bit closer at it. I wonder what the sim model thinks about Brooke Lopez. 6,800. Am I crazy? Okay, no. It's okay with them. I like some other guys a bit more. Yeah, I can't find a great reason to play these guys. The blowout risk does scare me, but I kind of hope the Nets can find a way to keep it close. So I might take like a shot on like Giannis and Giroux or Giroux. Yeah, to be honest, I just don't like these last games as much as I like the earlier ones. It's pretty rare when I don't have guys that I want to utilize as a leverage play in the last game of the slate. Maybe by the time we get to the pre-lock show, I'll have some shots I want to take, but it's a little bit of a tough spot for me. The Knicks would be much more interesting if Brunson's ruled out. We've been on top of that for the most part. Quickly really struggled last time around, but RJ Barrett still had a solid performance. I think Julius Randle disappointed us a good bit too. But if Brunson ends up getting ruled out, I'm totally fine going right back to the well here to Randle, RJ Barrett, probably to a lesser extent quickly, but I'll have some exposure just to make sure I have some exposure. Just in case he has a ceiling performance. And Mitchell Robinson's on my radar as a leverage play, 5,600. He stands out a good bit for the sim model alongside my guy Eason. So if Mitchell Robinson's ownership stays this low, I'm totally fine taking a shot on him being around 15% exposure, maybe higher. The reason why he's low owned is because of the extreme value in the Nets game. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to dominate the center position. And so if you find a reason to not have Sharpe in some of your lines, you're automatically getting different. I am going to have plenty of Sharpe. I'm not saying that that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just saying that by forcing some exposure to some of these other centers, I'll automatically have some lines that are different. E-Money said, thanks, bro. Pivots are key. Agreed, man. Agreed. Rez said, hey, return subscriber here. Nice, man. Welcome back. Vic said Sabonis in the late slate is going to be a sweat. You're not wrong, man. It's going to be interesting to see. Vic said third highest mark besides Giannis and Curry. Vic said Noel and Sharpe getting minutes. Yeah. Splitting minutes. Yeah, they will. But with Sharpe being 3K, that's what kind of helps him stand out a little bit. And also why Noel isn't as exciting. Noel should start here. But he's 3,300. Still a viable play. But Sharpe seeing similar minutes at 3K is just a little bit more interesting. You can even pivot off of Sharpe and play Noel. Like, that's also pretty different. E-Money, that's interesting. I don't know if Bridges will play in a blowout. I feel like he won't, because they'll probably try to like emphasize to him like, hey, we think you're that guy, if I had to guess. Especially when like Spencer Dinwiddie's out tonight for rest. I wouldn't be shocked if Bridges doesn't play run in a blowout, but yeah, I have Bridges listed as a potential leverage play, but for me, it's really just because he's like the lowest owned net, and he also has the highest ceiling, so I almost always highest fantasy point total, maybe not the highest ceiling based on price. So I agree with you. Next up, we have the Kings. They are healthy. When they're healthy, they're so much more boring. You can make an argument to play Sabonis. He has decent ownership. I know Vic likes him from the sounds of it. In the late slate, I think he makes a ton of sense. But on the main slate, it's hard for me to find a great reason to play him. The Knicks have been a solid defense throughout this season. And with them healthy, I just like other spots more. With them being so low owned, I'll try to dig a little bit deeper and find a reason to make some of these guys leverage plays. It won't be Sabonis, but maybe like a Fox or a Barnes or a Murray. But I'm just not super excited about it. But I do like the low ownership, so I need to dig a little bit deeper there. If it stays that way, if their ownership increases, I'm not gonna go there. All right. So yeah, that's everything for me, guys. I appreciate you guys for sticking around with me and I appreciate the support. Look forward to seeing you all later today on the pre-lock show. Again, that's at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. If not, if I don't see y'all there, I hope you have a takedown. I hope we have some success. Look forward to hopefully celebrating with y'all tomorrow. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye.